All the roads are winding.
Welcome to the show, Maggie. I'm so excited to have you here today. Hi.
I am so excited to be here and share this space with you.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, for folks who don't know, Maggie is actually a member of our collective. That's how we met. And I was just so inspired by the magic that she brought to this space. And I was like, wow, Shauna and I were both inspired. I'm just the one interviewing here. So I'm really, really excited to get to know more about you and to share your magic with our listeners. So before we do that, do you want to do an invocation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to do a little 1 second honoring of the waxing crescent moon in Leo, because we're going to talk all about the moon. So we can just kind of invite that energy of the Leo, it's starting to deposit that energy, that magic into us. So just give a second for that. And then we'll go ahead with our invocation.
And just a note, can I note here to people that that's the moon of when we're recording, so they're not confused when they're listening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So let's invite the spirits of the cosmic allies and the highest, most enlightened selves to be here now. Allow us to attune to you and your wisdom and guidance as we go through healing and transformation. We ask for your protection here today, and as we move through our cycles, plant our seeds, grow our roots, blossom and decompose over and over again, more perfectly each time, throughout lifetimes. I invoke the spirits of the earth and our well-heeled ancestors who have come here before us and survived it all. Hold us tenderly in your womb space, here on this planet, closest to source, as Mother Moon does for us in the cosmos. Lead us in our soul growth, for the collective conscious depends on it. We receive any signs, symbols, or messages with gratitude as we honor and serve the sacred relationship between the cosmos, ourself, and the earth. And so it is.
So it is. Wow, I just had an awareness that I've never had before, and I want to share it. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That throughout our lifetimes and through all of our generations and lineages, we've always been on the same earth, under the same sun, and the same moon, and the same stars. And that makes me want to cry. Like, oh my God.
Oh, listen, I was jazzing on that energy today of just like that trifecta of energy, and I feel it.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that. Woo. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So share with us, where are your ancestors from? What's your lineage like?
Yeah, so I finally took one of those like ancestor DNA tests, because my folks didn't they had like a vague idea, but I was like, I need to get specific. And I am like mostly Welsh, so like 80% Welsh. But what I was learning about that culture is it was mostly like an oral society. So they shared their messages and their stories and their lore and their poet and all of it through poetry. So they were really verbal versus like writing it down. So I thought that was a really cool fact about the people in Welsh, which is basically like Central Europe, or what we consider that now. And then I've got a little bit of Irish Celtic. So there's a little bit of lore from that department as well. And then just 1% Swedish. So,
cool.
yeah,
got a little Viking in there for good measure.
Right. Just like and it's funny that you said that about throughout lifetimes, and I always felt really disconnected to my earthly heritage, which is one of the reasons why I sought out the Earth Speak Collective. Because I just, I spend all my time and energy in the cosmos, that I need to get grounded. And I always felt like I was maybe like a starseed, or definitely something that was like not of this planet. But
definitely.
What you just said though about but I had the realization today, I was like, no, but I have been on this planet for a very long time. So it doesn't mean that I'm not, it didn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen in this lifetime. So I kind of felt like a little hug from Mother Earth being like, yeah, like you belong here. And that kind of, there's a wound there, I think, with a lot of us, that we don't belong here.
100% feel that.
Yeah. So I just had that realization today of just, diving into this work and really looking at the relationship between the cosmos, ourselves, and the earth. And even if we don't feel like we belong, I feel like we've been here long enough and we're here for a purpose. that it doesn't matter if we don't feel so integrated at this moment. I know that was like something that I struggled with for a long time. And I think really joining the Earth Speak Collective and really doing that work and connecting into that earthly energy, it feels more like home every time I do it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm so honored and grateful to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And I so resonate with the star. I'm sure so many listeners resonate with this too, of just feeling like you're not from this planet. You're like,
Yeah.
definitely from like Arcturus or something,
Yeah.
like that constellation and like, Pleiadians and all that. And so it's really been that, just to reflect that and to like affirm that for any listeners too, like that is a real struggle. Feeling like I'm not from this earth. It's so, the first time I ever went to therapy, I went in her office and I was like, I feel like I don't belong on this planet. I just cried and she got it. Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, 100%. But then it's like, so if we believe that, we're all a reflection of it, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I've been with the planet as long as I've needed to
Yeah.
be. And I have the wisdom and I have the nourishment, and I can kind of let go of that feeling of like lacking and not belonging, because while I know that I have a purpose here to serve, it now kind of feels like I'm realizing it's a more connected purpose, and it's a more intentional than I had thought of, just like, oh, just haphazardly just drop down from space. Like, okay, no, like you were planted a long time ago.
Yes. And I love that. That's such a beautiful just awareness of that, of like, oh, your awareness like helped you shift into, but like you belong now. Like it doesn't,
Yeah.
yeah, I love what you're saying there. Cool.
Yeah.
So, what land do you live on? Like, where are you, and who were the original people of that land?
Yeah, so I'm in Marysville, Ohio. It's essentially like central Ohio. I used to live in the city, but I moved with my family out to, it's like 30 minutes outside of the downtown of Columbus.
Cool.
But it's like a little farm-esque town. So it's nice. There's a lot of space. I can see the stars. That was one of the biggest things when we decided to move out here. Like, I get out of my car at night when I'm coming home from work, because I work in the city, and I can just see the stars. And like, we saw the asteroid the other night, and this like last lunar eclipse was just glorious. So I really feel blessed to be where I'm at. Originally, though, this was in Ohio. We've got a lot of Native American tribes, specifically the Hopewell and the Shawnee Nation tribes were in this area. So the Hopewell tribe is pretty infamous in Ohio. They do a lot of ceremonial mounds. So there's a serpent mound down in southern Ohio. Yeah.
Cool.
So there's a lot of really potent energy. And I know that I've got lots of memories. We grew up on like a small hobby farm, and we'd always find relics and things like that in the ground. So there, it's not really buried under it. And then my husband's family, they're from Bell Fountain, which is just like 30 minutes north of us, but it's actually the highest point in Ohio. So it's really cool. You actually, your ears will pop when you're driving up there. The elevation is so significant. But we always joke, the energy there, and I don't know if it's like the air because we're up higher, there's like a little mountain, there's a lake there. It just energetically, it feels differently up there. So it's really cool being able to experience the different layers in rural Ohio. Like I've traveled a lot in my youth, and you kind of, Ohio gets like a really funny rap.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. It's silly, but I just like, I don't know, I feel like the older I get, the more I'm appreciating the vibrations that it has to offer, and really seeing there is some really potent land. And I definitely feel Marysville, unfortunately, we've got like Scots and Nestle. So, there is a little bit of pollution here, but going up to Bell Fountain, I mean, it just with that altitude. And then it was also, the city itself was founded by the Shawnee Nation. And then about 30 to 40 years after that, white settlers came in. So it's really, so it's really interesting that there's almost like a blueprint of community under that town. So, and it, we've got a farm out there. We've got some places where we have done some like retreats and things like that. And it definitely, I don't know, it just feels there's a connectedness to the earth up there. And I definitely think that's from the people that started there. So
Wow.
yeah, it's heavy to talk about though, especially like in the culture that we're in right now, and just feeling like, we let those people down.
Gosh, I know. And what a amazing, just, I just get blown away every time I think about it. Like, these people existed on this land for millennia, and then we come in and we're like, chop, extract,
Yeah.
just consume, waste, pollute. Like, in European descent, what's you know?
Yeah.
But it's not, I don't think it's too late. Oh, I mean, maybe I'm like, it's a never too late type of person, but never too late to start, at least.
I mean, I appreciate that attitude.
Right? I mean, otherwise it's just abysmal and dismal.
Yeah.
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 Wow, that's really beautiful. I think Ohio does just kind of get lost in the mix. It's like coast to coast and then everything in between. And so people don't really think about
Yeah.
it. And it sounds beautiful. And I just know from hearing from you that you have just amazing, get to grow amazing, beautiful wildflowers. And like you have your sunflowers behind you. And right now, as we're recording, just so much natural magic surrounding you. And it's just like, I feel that when I talk to you, just like, oh, wow. It sounds like it makes me want to go to Ohio.
Well, you're always welcome.
Thanks.
We'll go to Bell Fountain though.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. We'll go where it's a little bit more magical. There's some like natural streams and stuff up there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the jam.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So something that, I would love to get into this about some of your background and how you even came to have any kind of connection with the moon and in your conscious connection. Let's say there was probably always that subconscious,
Yeah.
connection, but how did you come to the practices that you embody and carry today of this moon magic and star magic and earth magic coming together, and just such a beautiful combination that you hold?
Yeah, well, I think you were chatting a little bit earlier, and I will just like go right there. I definitely learned everything the hard way. So I am not a learn from others type of person. And every time I've tried it has gone horribly. So that's why I feel like you'll hear in my messaging is like really like trust yourself. But that comes through like my own experiences and noticing like the patterns in my own life. So I think that's one thing, like noticing patterns is where I really started to get connected with the moon. So I was a heroin addict who for like 5 to 7 years, 7 years ago. So that's super cool, right?
So you're 7 years clean.
Yep, 7 years clean. I think that's the math. It might be a little bit more. 2012. I feel like at this point, like you just kind of
almost 8 years.
Yeah, it's life right now. Yeah. So I got sober December 21st, 2012. And, that is winter solstice. So that's like the darkest day of the year. And my journey to that day is really funny. Like I got kicked out of rehab. I had to go back. That's like my second time in detox. So like that date just, again, like it shouldn't have been the date that I was experiencing that surrender. So I think when I started to get sober, I was in a woman's facility, and it was like a 90-day minimum program, and it was in like Southern Ohio where like all the pill mills were, and it definitely, at that point I was on state insurance, so it wasn't the cushy rehabs that I had been used to previously. So it kind of shook me a little bit, and I remember on that date just being like, all right, I'm gonna listen. Like clearly like what I'm doing isn't working. I've tried it. I'm stubborn, all of that stuff. So I'm just going to listen. And there was a guy in there, he was a counselor, and he was very much like into like God and sobriety. So he had a lot of books on religion and God. And so he let me read them. So he was like a scholar of religion or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but he had a lot of those books, and I remember just reading them through, and it talked about like all the different theories on God and the universe and all of those things. And then, I was just allowing myself to be exposed to a lot of people's like perspective. And then we had a hypnotist come in. I forgot about this part of the story.
Oh,
so
cool.
we had a hypnotist come in, and she was like trying to get the girls who were smoking to quit smoking. And that was like what she was there to like advertise her services for. And then we were all like, but but if you can help us quit smoking, why can't you help us quit doing drugs? Like we didn't understand, like, we're like, but your logic or whatever. But she started to explain how the mind works and things like that. And somebody had put on the refrigerator upstairs a little like post-it note that said, I am not fat. And she was like, she called us out. She's like, hey, I need to talk about what you guys are using for motivation. Your brains can't hear the word not. So she took us through an exercise and was like, okay, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine an elephant that is not pink.
Right.
Like, what did you just see? You saw
Of
pink.
course.
Right. And we're like, oh. So in that moment, something just resonated with me that, you know, the words that we speak are spells. They're powerful. So from that moment on, I got super cheeky and I quit saying that like, hi, my name's Maggie, I'm an addict. I changed it to, hi, my name's Maggie. I'm grateful to be here today.
Wow, I have chills. I like want to cry. That's amazing.
Yeah. And you know, maybe that was part of it. Cause I just, you know, there's a lot of shame in the rooms of sobriety, whether they're, you know, meant to be helpful or not. So just really putting the fact that like, I'm a grateful, and I have to like throw the word addict in there to like appease my counselors so they wouldn't think that I'm totally like ignoring
Trying
the
to skirt the
rules.
system. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm here for it. I'm just trying to do it in my own way. Like I had been to treatment. That was probably like my 5th time. So like
Oh, wow.
I'd been there before, you know, I'd seen that path fail for me, or maybe I wasn't doing it right. So that was my first introduction to like words as spells. And I really noticed a shift. And then I got a book on mindfulness and the 12 steps. So if anybody ever comes to me to talk about recovery, I recommend that book. Because it replaces the word God and helps you understand the universe, the mother source. Yeah. So a lot of people who have shame around like religion and God, there's a block for getting sober. So
Yeah.
I removed that block because I'd have so many, like, I was an atheist at that point, but I was anti-religion. I was agnostic, but I was an atheist because I was an asshole. and I would rather argue why religion is, not good for anybody that admit that like I believed in a higher power. So I kind of had to like, again, like remove that ego and be like, and I remember talking to my mom in one of the visitations and I was like, Mom, I think I believe in God, but I don't think that's what it's called. But I think I'm understanding that like what you call it God, I call and feel something else, but we're all kind of talking about the same thing. So that's, again, seeing the patterns and the overlay of different religions. And then I started studying like how all the religions have the same law and order essentially. And then through there, kind of started to discover like the moon cycles and like the natural wheel of the earth. So it all kind of just started from that point of like using words as spells and then just seeing the interconnectedness of everything. And just it got blown wide open for me. And, you know, I think the moon has always been there for me. You know, you can see it. That's the coolest thing about it. You can see it, you can feel it. There's no denying it. You know, like you can't, like it just, there's too much science around it to just act like that's too far away.
Right. Or like it's not affecting us.
No, like, okay, like it affects the tides. I always like tell people that it affects the tides, how much water is in your body, like just give me a break. If you can believe that fact, then like, please just observe this fact. So, you know, I think it started there. And then I was introduced to some people that did like tarot readings, and then they were in the recovery rooms. So I was able to find like other witches in recovery.
Cool.
Yeah. And just really find a sponsor that was supportive in the mindfulness. And I found people that were willing to tolerate me wanting to be different, you know, in a very systematic, you know, recovery is very systematic, and it's very one way, you know, and that's what they teach, you know, they're teaching that way. When you're in AA and NA, they're teaching that. So they're not, you know, you can go somewhere else and find a different philosophy. So that's what they're there to honor. So, you know, I kind of quit my journey with recovery rooms, and I actually got employed with a really super cool company with Lush, and I have been there ever since. So that really helped, finding a company that was stable. Like I had a cosmetology license and things like that. So finding
cool.
a company, yeah. So I had some skills before I decided to like live a wild life. So I went and managed Lush, and the cool thing about that is Lush has it's like an ethical company, and they really train us as managers to treat people the way they want to be treated, to do things ethically, to be mindful, to be real, like all the values that I was taking away from my recovery, I was finding it within this company. And at that time in 2012, when Lush was a little bit more like word of mouth and things like that, like we really sat down with our clients and got to know them and really be involved in like the human touch. And, it was just a really healing experience to serve others. So I think that's where my service to others, that's what they teach in AA and NA is be of service to others. So I was able to find that somewhere else. And through that, then kind of, okay, what else? I'm seeing these people, I'm seeing my clients, and we're selling them the perfect like routines, and they're still missing something. So I think and I saw my employees, because I employed a lot of like young 20-year-olds, and I just saw them missing something. So I think, being around people who were authentic, who were, optimistic, who were fighting for a cause, to be around those people, but still see them feeling like they're missing something. I was like, okay, I'm going to find it. I'm going to find out how I can help my friends, help my employees, help my clients. So I think that's where I really started to look at like tarot and astrology and like energy work and things like that. When I started learning about astrology, it was 2015. So I took like a 2-year mentorship and was just like,
Wow.
I want to talk to people about this. Yeah, I want to share with people information about themselves, because nobody knows themselves. Like nobody knows how to make decisions. Nobody knows what they
People
need.
are terrible at making decisions. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So I think, it's just, and that's like the noticing the patterns, right? So now, with the information that I have, like I can go back and I can track these major life events, and I can see the cyclical nature of them when I decide to become open, and be receptive. And, I can just see all the things that I was intending and asking for, I was receiving them, and because I knew how to write spells, because I knew how to, transmute that energy out into the universe from that, from that hypnotist, I was trying to get those people to stop smoking. So it just, I think that's what I'm pretty skilled at, is like identifying those patterns and just chasing them and being like, I need to know more. And I think the moon offers such a rich tapestry of cycles to experience, whether it's in your own birth chart or whether it's through like observation on the daily or like monthly or seasonally. So I don't know, I think the moon is just like super cool because it has so much to offer. And it's such I don't know, I tell people like the moon is your gateway drug to spirituality. Like
Totally.
it just like have a conversation with me about the moon and let's see how you feel afterwards, because I bet you're gonna feel something.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
that was a long answer.
this is a beautiful story. Thank you. And oh, wow. So now, you're still rocking it at Lush and still doing your moon magic and teaching and doing consultations and stuff. And you know, I really like what you're saying too, because people have heard me on the podcast before. I have this like on again, off again relationship with astrology. It's like I sometimes what I love the general teachings of it and like I think it's to me, I'm like, yes, this is a real system with real knowledge and it really works. But I so often see it being consumed, being presented and consumed as more of a giving of power away to the stars. Like, oh, the stars are doing something and you have no power or agency in that. And I just can't stand that, And I love how you present like you be your, trust yourself and seeing. I think that taking it into this, I'm totally like trying to justify myself here, but but seeing like, I think astrology is really cool. Is like we are part of this cosmic cycle too, and the moon affects us, the stars affect us, and I'm just curious to hear more from you about that difference between how astrology is presented as this like thing that, okay, you know, Venus is in Scorpio and it's retrograde, which was a terrible time for me, but also awesome. You know, cleaned out a bunch of stuff and planted seeds and news, but like, and feeling versus feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm at the mercy of the stars. So I don't know, what do you have to say to that?
Listen, I will agree with you. So that's been my journey with astrology. So when I got my husband scheduled a birth chart reading for me and him. So we were walking into some shop and we stumbled upon it and we saw that they did birth charts. So we booked it and we went down for like 3 weekends in a row to meet with this guy who would become my mentor. And you know, the birth chart reading was great, but I was sitting there and I remember being like, this is another language. Like, I don't understand. I mean, this resonates. I felt validated, and like, he was telling me experience, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, I've got an Aries moon, so like I'm Pisces, super chill, but I have an Aries moon, so I've got a fire inside of me. So he was kind of explaining like how that energy is projected, right? So that began my study because I wanted to know, okay, great. Now what do you do with that information? How do you just blew this me wide open cosmically. Now, how do I live on earth with this information? So, and here's like the crazy thing. So that kind of started my like deep dive. And then this guy asked if I would be or he said we could be his students. He definitely, like looking back, wanted my husband, not me. I'll go into that in a second. It's fine. Yeah. So, so anyways, I took one of his like, you know, in-depth like astrology classes. And then we had agreed on the class, it was like a 6-month series and that was over. And then we kind of were like, well, let's do a mentorship program where I can, you know, we're developing a program and I was actually helping him write like some of the curriculum for the program that we were creating together because I'm a really good facilitator. So I was kind of helping him navigate that. And we were working on this and we were going to make, you know, an astrology school to help teach people. I was going to lead circles and things like that. And then I started to hear feedback from women in the community that he was in his chart readings with them was telling them that like they were past lovers, they were soulmates, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's why I agree with you. I've got a really big problem with astrology because people are so powerless in that moment. And like, you have to trust the person that you're getting the reading from, that they've got your best interest, because I could tell you anything that I wanted to tell you. I mean, I think that's the truth with any like reading that you get.
Anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not just astrology, right? It's anybody. But I saw that firsthand and it wasn't just, he was calling me like his protege and like all this stuff. So I kind of like, looking back in the moment, I was like, oh my gosh, like he sees me, like he gets it. But I'm now realizing like he was a narcissist and like trying to whatever. But it came about that I had like multiple women contact me and be like, hey, this is happening. Is this like, can he really like see those things? Like, are these true? Like, hey, he wants me to be his mentoree. Like, what do you think about this? And it ended up being like a whole thing because I don't tolerate that kind of behavior. So I tried to take it to the people that, you know, might have been able to do something. I tried to like have conversations and they just weren't like super received. Like it was put back on me, like, you know, why don't you just talk to him? You know, he's an old guy, like he doesn't mean it. He was also in that time period, like claiming that he was like discovering that he was gay. And it just was like, he was going through something. Yeah. And he was using his position of power to like get attention from women. And I think because and men too. And I think because he met me with my husband, I didn't get initially that same kind of like energy from him. He then turned me into like his confidant, you know, the person I became his like bro. And I was like, it was just crazy. But I think that goes back to like the idea of like, why I'm really inspired to teach people how to use astrology in their daily life, because I've seen it from like the reporter, the readership side, and it can get really, there can be a lot of ego involved. You have to like know that your reader is doing it through their perception and things like that. So I was like, okay, well, clearly I was put in the traditional path for a reason, to see that it wasn't for me. Because I was, like when you're into it, you're like, I need to get a mentorship. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to be traditional. Like, I need to honor the system. And I got in so much trouble doing that. And that's why I said, like, I learned everything the hard way.
And the system that was put there in place, probably, and controlled by men for millennia. So interesting that your experience was like that. Not saying that men, but like the patriarchy. I'm sorry.
No.
It's like the toxic masculine.
Yeah. And it's like, I felt, and that's one of the patterns that I've repeated in my life, of being in those situations. And I was like, oh, like it is in every single atmosphere for me. But again, it just really taught me, like, I need to be a different kind of astrologer. I need to be somebody that teaches you how to use this energy. And that's why I got into doing the moon circles, because it was a way to observe astrology in a way that was connected, in a way that was in the group. So like full transparency, like multiple people are hearing what I'm saying. Like there's not, it's not about me in that moment, so I was really able to engage with that energy for a good couple years. And, I teach the zodiac as like archetypes, and how they'll show up in all different fashions and things like that. And we use the moon to kind of observe that energy and observe the relationship between the moon and the sun.
Oh,
so
interesting. So like when the moon is in a specific sign or something, is that how that works?
Yeah. So we'll talk about, inviting the energy of, right, it's in Leo right now. So we can invite the energy of Leo to be present with us. So, it's like I teach people to build a relationship with each archetype in the zodiac. And then, they all represent like a different element. Most things have crystals or tarot that goes with it. So you can really, I kind of have an image in my brain that, we've got these 12 celestial allies, the zodiac, and ourselves being the 12th. And they are just mirrors of our experience, and we can invite them in, we can honor them, we can nourish them, we can ignore them, but they're all there to help us evolve and show us things. I definitely, I've done birth chart readings. They're just not my thing. So I've kind of switched to doing just like moon chart readings. So really going deeper into like, how does the moon, which is your instinctual self, relate to the rest of your chart? What phase was your moon in when you were born? So it's going to teach you the kind of action that you can take, or the type of things that you typically do and respond to. So that way you can use that information. Now obviously, like, astrology will tell you, like your will, like where you're going, it has a lot of information. But I feel like the more I learn about astrology, the more I know that I don't know anything about astrology. But then you see, like, there's so many experts right now. And I'm like, yo, like, I've been doing this for like almost 5 years, and I feel like an amateur. So I think astrology is really easy to get seduced by all the information. But it's like, what do you do with the information? That's what I care about. So I think that's, if I can understand your frustration with it, because it feels like there's a rules to follow.
Yeah.
And I don't like, yeah, exactly. And it just can get so diluted. And I think there's a lot of room for just ego in that world. I mean, it is rooted in science, which is more like man ruled, the patriarch. It is, you got to think about I think astrology and it is a lot more like men heavy doing it.
Very, which is interesting, because I see the world through such a filter of looking to women who are doing things that I'm not even aware. I guess I'm aware of like K-Pacha, but I'm like, and maybe there's one other guy who did astrology. I'm like, it's just, there's so many, but it is such a patriarchal rooted system. Do you have more? Because I'm like bursting. I'm like,
go for it.
Okay, because thank you. So I'm hearing from you because this is so helpful to me too. Like I'm like, wow, personally reframed. I'm hearing from you that your approach is, first of all, through the lens of the moon, which is so feminine. Second of all, it's
Yeah.
about, it's taking that pedestal away and taking that authority away and bringing it into relationship, which I love. I'm like, okay, I can get down with relationship and with direct connection instead of just like blah blah blah. And third, I love that you said that it's a different language, because it really truly is. And I, you know, just taking it, distilling it down those 3 points of, okay, this different language is learned not through words, but through experience and relationship and direct connection. Like, boom, there, it's the different paradigm of astrology. So
Yeah.
thank you for just unpacking all that for me.
Well, you summarized it beautifully.
Just pulling out the pieces you said.
Right.
So in that, I think it would be useful to ask, especially for our astrology buffs out there, what are your sun, moon, and rising?
Sure, don't come after me.
Oh gosh.
No, not you, the astrology buffs, for just like, I'm not talking shit, I promise. I'm on your team.
They probably understand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. I'm just telling them things they don't want to know. Anyways, I have a sun in Pisces. I have a moon in Aries, but my moon is an aspect to Neptune. So talking about relationships, it's very related to Neptune. And then I've got a Sagittarius rising. So, and I've
Cool.
got a lot of planets in the lower half, which really speak to like family karma and choosing like your path, which really resonates with my story. So I think that's kind of cool that that's in
Cool.
there. Yeah. So talking
Nice.
about
Yeah.
and talking about relationships, like I always look at, if you're looking at your chart, you're looking at your moon now, if like you're like, oh, I'm going to pull that back out, look at what is an aspect to it, what is relating to your moon. The relationship is more important than if it's a square or an opposition or a conjunction. Like the relationship itself is important. So, kind of, and that's what I have found since like an amazing mentor. And she is a second generation astrologer, and she
Cool.
again talks about the relationship between things, and that's the study, and that's what you're looking at is how is the moon relating to the sun, how is your planets relating to what house. And it's you're just unpacking relationships, so you can look at it microscopically, one by one, or you can look at seeing like how many, if you've got a lot of things pointing to one planet, then you're going to have more influence by that planet. I think that's the cool thing. I do like when I see like reports, like predictive astrology out there, I do like it when we can see those patterns. So like when there's a handful of planets that are starting to retrograde, that's kind of interesting to me, because it's like, okay, it's not just one, so they're relating, and more things are going to be happening. And I think that's the cool thing that I like to look at, is like, what patterns am I seeing cosmically that maybe I can feel in this
Yeah.
earthly body. Yeah.
I love that. I do that too. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go back to Venus in Scorpio retrograde, because, oh my goddess, I was like, what the actual F is going on in my life right now? And looking at the astrology, everything was aligned with what it said. But I love that coming from that experience first. What are you noticing? And then confirming with that reflection. And I think not that anybody's way is wrong, because it can be useful to know what's coming. But sometimes if you're looking for something, you can miss what's already here. So that's just kind of the approach. I always go from like, what is happening in my life and in my body and my psyche at first.
Yeah, I
So
definitely think it's cool to like, there's an asteroid called Chiron that does like with a lot of wounded healing, and you can go back and you can trace its moments in your chart when it and for me, like, it lines up with some significant trauma that were turning points for me. So I think those are what I like. I like the reflectiveness more so of it than like the predictiveness, because I'm like, well, clearly, like, the universe is teaching us right now that what we think is going to happen is not in our control. But I think it's cool when you can look back and you can like see like, oh, like I made a smart choice then, or oh, maybe I didn't make a smart choice then, and these are the consequences. I know in my original mentorship, we looked at the chart of the United States a lot. And anytime that there was a an opportunity for peace or goodness to happen, we went like the opposite way. So it was interesting to see like it was aligned to do something for the collective, and that almost that good fortune was like resisted entirely. So you could see the trajectory of things happening, and maybe understand why there were some things that felt out of our control then, but it was maybe an opportunity for like karmic good. And it was like, oh, we got to double down on the system that is serving some and not others.
Is that happening right now? I put you on the spot. I don't know if you've looked at that chart in a while.
No, yes and no. I mean, I know that we were talking about around the 4th of July, like it was Pluto's return, and that could have definitely, Pluto's karmic, so that could have definitely stirred some things up, but nothing happened. You know, I mean, yeah, that we can see. I mean,
that we
Pluto's,
know, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So I think that's kind of, I'm definitely more of a wait and see. Michelle Prentice, who is the lady that I work with now, she charts earthquakes.
Oh, cool.
And like, yeah, so she is just like, oh, I love her, and I love her perspective, and it just, you know, and that's what I'm like saying, you've got to find someone, if you're taking like any advice that you have to trust, like, and make sure that your perspective aligns with them, because everyone's going to come at it with their own baggage, their own lens, and all that stuff. So I just appreciate how she articulates it. But she does like, she'll chart the chart of the United States around these major earthquakes, and there's always something happening. She just did the chart of her mother's death. So she like really looks at like major life events and looks at the astrology around it. And I mean, she just is, her wisdom is so incredible. And she just is like, she's the mom that you always wanted. I mean, I love my mom, but she just like, she got that. Mm-hmm. She's just so like wise, and her mom was an astrologer, but her mom, she always talks about her mom like was very sharp, and they were in like a hippie commune in San Francisco, but her mom was always had like the cards out and stuff, but her mom was very very firm, not very soft and warm. So she's like very soft and warm. So it's just, but you hear her mom come through a lot. So it's, yeah.
It's in a nice soft container.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, Michelle's one that I definitely will read her like predictive horoscopes and her like her predictive things for the month, because I just really appreciate her perspective. And I think that's the other thing with like astrology, right? Like my specialty is the moon, and like I don't need to like, there's so many facets of it, you know. I think it's, you know, with any practice, like you've got to pick your one thing, because there's so much information, you know. It's the cosmos, like what?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna stick with the moon, and maybe in my third lifetime with this, I can be what Michelle does. But you know, I much rather share other people's information than try to emulate someone's style. Or, you know, that's just the thing, like if you've grown up around it, your prediction with it is going to be way different than mine. You know, it goes back to that experience, right? She's been able to experience it for 2 generations. I hope to be able to teach my son those things. Like he was my inspiration for really learning about the moon and teaching like the moon cycle. He's a double Virgo, so like my failed homeschooling attempt, right? But I'm like, okay, if I can't, I'm clearly not meant to teach him like math and reading and things like that, but I can teach him the natural laws, because he is a rule follower. So I wanted to teach him how to appreciate the cycles of the earth, because I know that he's going to pay attention to those man-made rules and laws and things like that. So I mean, I'm all about the experience part of it, and how we can create a tangible connection to something that's so vast.
Oh, totally. I have like more questions, so many questions, more than we have time for. Oh my gosh. Like philosophically, I want to know your take on like, you know, what I'm hearing too is how we are in relationship with the whole cosmos. And I love that, is take a cosmic perspective. Like, remember, we're not just here in our little lives, you know, we're on this planet floating amongst a universe so big and so vast, it's unfathomable by our minds, and yet it mirrors the same patterns down to our neurons and our cells. It's like just this beautiful as above so below. But seeing that, it's a humbling experience of like, oh, okay, we have agency, but we're not always in control. Like, what is in control anyways? Does it even exist? There's agency and there's control, and in that, what's your take on like why? I'm asking you, this is like such a, I'm like, I almost feel bad asking this. I'm like, what's your take on why the stars affect us in these patterns and cycles? Like, was it something, I don't know, I'm going to just let you answer. I'm not going to try to put my perspective on it.
Oh man. So I've been taking a Kabbalah class, and they talk about like the making of the universe essentially in it, and there's some theories of like all thing versus no thing. It's some heavy stuff, because I'm taking it for the tree of life in a tarot class, because I just think it's
Cool.
It's cool. And they were kind of talking about this a little bit, because I think I'm in like very beginnings of it, so I'm just kind of in the intro stuff, and they had us preface it like the creation of the universe. I'm like, oh, I buckle up. So I'm like, I got it. Like it really seems like that the idea is like we were created in this vacuum, and the idea, and I'm trying to like remember what they were talking about with like Adam and Eve and all of that, but the idea is, I think that we are just mirrors. That's my philosophical view, is that we're literally mirrors for everything and nothing. So without each other, so they were talking about, okay, here I got it. So they were talking about the idea that if I don't exist, my parallel polarity also doesn't exist. And that creates like disruption, the ripple. So everything has a polarity, which I like about astrology, because everything is in polarities. And the idea though, so it's like, yeah, if we're gonna have the cosmos, we need the ants, we need something, we need that balance. So if we're gonna have the vastness, we need to have the microscopicness, but they are mirrors for each other, and you can't have one thing without the other. So I don't know if that's like really answering your question, but the idea,
I mean, what is the answer? There's no answer.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just really feel like we are just all mirrors for each other. And I feel like that's kind of why my vision when I channel like celestial information, there's 11 of them and not 12. The 12th is me. And I'm the
11 of what?
The celestial bodies, the zodiac signs.
There's not 12?
No, there is 12, but I'm the 12th. You are the 12th. Your sign is
so like I'm Aquarius, so I'm
right?
the 12th. Okay.
So every other sign exists, and you are the mirror for Aquarius.
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of like reflecting back on you, because if without you, that doesn't exist, because it exists in our mind and we study it, right? So it's like, but maybe it does exist without us to think about it.
You're allowing it to exist because you're embodying it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the idea though is like, that's just what it is we all need each other to exist, and we are all reflecting each other's light, and without being able to reflect for each other, doesn't matter. We bring it all to life. So
wow,
let's hear your answer.
Wow, that was awesome. That was so rad, and I could really get down with that. I don't even know what my answer was. Let me see. I don't remember what I was gonna say.
I'm gonna make you.
Okay. I had a theory that our take on the stars is so influenced by the Earth's cycles, and that, for all of humanity, the stars and fire have been this entertainment, and they've been this, the moon is that constant timekeeper, the stars are the maps and the timekeepers, and the fire is this entertainment. So there's this like, and the sun day and night, it's just like, these are some really major things in our ancestors' lives, our ancient ancestors, all the way up to like the 1800s when we start having a more industrial revolution. And I have a theory that really so much of how astrology came to be defined was because at a certain time of year, there would be, say, a certain constellation in a certain part of the sky. And even though, that constellation was almost like an indicator of what's happening on Earth in the seasonal cycle. And that the people, that somehow they kind of like, I'm like, for people who can't see, I'm like raising my hands, like raising and lowering my hands, like they're like Earth and people are beaming up at the stars, and the stars are like beaming back at them, and just kind of like co-creating this construct that we now call astrology. So that's my theory. No freaking clue. Like totally pulled out of my butt. It's like, it's just.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at it like in a literal sense, like, yeah, they used it to map planting and the cycles and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely not wrong of why we created astrology as a language.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely,
mm-hmm.
Yes. So, I mean, that's why I call it like weather reporting. It's like reporting what's happening in the sky. It's just cosmic weather, not
cosmic weather,
not Earth weather.
Right.
But it is, and that's what, like, I'm just working on some like material right now and everything. When I talk about the phases of the moon, we can track you can look at it from like the perspective of the like yearly calendar, and you can see it mirroring the harvest cycles of the Earth.
Cool.
Yeah, so you can just see that it's all, it's like which came first, right? Who knows? I mean, scientists.
Well, they influence each other,
yes.
like it's all, there's not one without the other, like you're saying, we wouldn't have the same type of rotation without the moon, and same type of seasons. It's like we're interconnected intricately.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And I always like to like imagine people, I call it the rainbow bridge, even though someone once told me, they're like, that's what they say when pets die. And I'm
it's also a Viking thing, so
yeah, okay,
you're accessing that 1% Swedish.
Thank you. But I like imagine, with our like chakras and stuff, like we are like the rainbow bridge between the Earth and the sky, like we can activate that. And when I do meditations and vision quests, I activate that rainbow bridge. I mean, you and I connected very early on over rainbows, and I feel like that's our, if you took away our fleshy body, I feel like we would just be like rainbow light, and like,
oh my God,
it just shoots from like heaven to earth. So that's,
I'm getting a yes from Spirit. Spirit's like, yeah.
Cool.
Like colors you've never even seen. Like,
absolutely.
Psychedelic.
Yep.
Wow. I know. When you first came to the collective, there were so many synchronicities with rainbows at it was just like, and I was like, okay, this got some rainbow magic coming on.
I know. So and cool. I'm like, sometimes I get like really nerdy with like the symbols, and I'm like, I just need to stop.
No, don't no,
like, no, but I know, but I'm always like, is anyone else noticing this? Because I'm just can't stop. And I'm sure people are just like always around me, like, can you just knock it off? But I like will always have some crazy like situation that happens, or noticing, or synchronicity. And I think that's how my intuition speaks to me, like I'm a pattern noticer, and I'm really good at like identifying signs and symbols. And that's what I always tell people in like my practice when they are doing this. I'm like, ask it questions, like see what's up, like be nosy, and I think I'm just so nosy with spirit that it just like
engaged. But that's what's been cut off over the millennia. Yeah. That's what's been cut off. It's all been taken to an authority, and it's been taken away from that direct connection.
Yep. So I'm a question asker. And I get lots of
I'm like high five over the fucking internet, because yes, asking is key.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the moon as that, I think it's as showing the cycles. It's interesting too. We even name them. We're like, like harvest moon, strawberry moon. If you look at the names of the moons, they all go with the season that they are aligning with. At least in North America, I guess, in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, I don't know if they call them by different names. Are they just going opposite? Yeah. I don't know. We'll have to ask. Jade. Yeah.
Jade
down in Australia. Oh, that was a terrible accent. Oh my God.
Well,
So
I do know that there is like when, because I buy, it's called like the Magic of Eye planner. It's like a super cool astrology planner. And you
okay.
do have to differentiate when you order it. I think they make them in Australia, but you have to
Yeah.
differentiate which hemisphere that you're in.
Okay.
So I don't know if the names will be different, but I definitely know that like the hemisphere affects like your vantage point, the cycles and things like, or of the,
Right.
you know, all seasons, all of that stuff.
Right. Because you have a totally different constellation in the sky at night.
Yeah.
Except same moon and same moon
Right.
phase, which I think is so cool. It's always the
Yeah.
same. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll have Jade confirm that for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Please confirm, Jade. Jade, for people who don't know, Jade is another collective member and also an Earthspeak team member. So
Yeah.
cool. So gosh, I'm like so much more. Tell us some more about how you work with the moon and your relationship with the moon, and especially how it's connected to the way you experience your intuition and the tracking.
Yeah, for sure. So I think my introduction like in doing like ceremony started with the moon. That was my first experience with ceremony, was my wedding actually. So I remember we really wanted to make it, obviously like our partnership and our story was super unique. So we wanted to make sure that like we weren't, you know, we had a traditional venue booked and we like backed out and we are like, nope, this doesn't feel right. And we got married in a cave.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. We got married down. It's in, it's called Hocking Hills. It's a place down in Southern Ohio. And it was this like super cool, like waterfall and cave area. But it was one of those moments of like, okay, like we're going to do ceremony. And, you know, we included all the different elements. Like my husband's a Sagittarius, so he brought in like fire torches. As a water sign, I brought in lots of like flowers. And so but it was, when we were planning the date for it, we picked September 27th, 2015. So it's all like 3 is the numerology with it. It's all like nines or sixes, and it goes down to threes. And then it was a super full moon, like a super blood moon that night. So
Cool.
we intentionally, like that was the date we picked because of the lunar cycle. So I really see the lunar cycle as like a portal for big life events and for for smaller life events. For like, I think it's about relating with intention, right? So it's like we wanted our relationship, we had intention, and that was ceremony, and it was around the moon. So that was my first like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do something based on something different. And then from there on, I had an experience with, I was taking care of my husband's grandmother as she was passing. And I was really kind of helping her exit this plane and go on to her next. We had lots of conversations around it. She believed in like reincarnation and stuff. So we helped her when she passed, like we opened all the windows and did all that stuff for ceremony. So then she became one of my first guides on the other side that I had a connection with, because she believed in me. She gave me some like super cool like Tibetan necklaces that her brother smuggled out when he was in the army. I mean, yeah. So it just, I think she saw me in my true form, which I hadn't experienced that in my recovery or sobriety, being looked at without like a lot of shame from other adults.
Wow, with that label. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she always, you know, I was lucky my husband was her favorite, and you know, so we got special privileges, but it was cool having that respect from an elder, and because she saw us as caretakers, and she understood what we had to offer and the love and all of that relationship. So I remember previously someone had told me like, okay, if you're going to start doing this kind of work, you need to have a guide on the other side. So I knew when she passed that she was somebody while she was still on the other side and not, you know, reincarnating to whatever she felt like, that I had a connection there. And so I started doing like new moon ceremonies by myself. And through that process, then I have like another guide that I work with. So I don't have to depend on her, so she can, you know, go off and do what she needs to do. But it was my first time I felt safe doing like a solo ceremony.
Cool.
And doing it under the moon. And I remember it was a new moon in Leo, actually. So it but it just opened my eyes. There was some super cool things that happened. There were some like orbs that appeared, definitely grandma. And like one of my tarot cards, this is like, I swear, I'm going to feel crazy when I say this. I have a tarot card. It's a high priestess card in my deck, and it was like bent in half.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like, I feel so cheesy saying that. Like my kid was out there and I'm like, maybe he stepped on it, but like he's not that type of kid. And it literally got like a crease in half. And so now that obviously, like if you are playing with a deck of cards and one has texture to it, you're probably going to pull a lot more often. Well, that's the high priestess. That's the high priestess card from my grandma. So like it just, that kind of solidified like, okay, yeah, you need to be doing this work. Like things,
Wow.
like magical things are going to happen to you when you do work under the moon, when you do ceremony under the moon. So yeah, that was kind of my first introduction to like doing some moon magic. And I had found a guidebook, I think Spirit Daughter. She had like workbooks, and I was ordering workbooks from her at first of like guided journaling and things like that. And then when I got into doing moon circles, then I kind of took the role of like facilitating like my own questions, my own inquiry, my own ritual elements and things like that, and really like curating that experience holistically for myself and for other people. And now I really, I've passed off my circle to somebody else because I just think sometimes you grow out of, I wanted a different mirror. So I wanted somebody else to experience that. And so I passed my circle off to another woman in the community. And it's amazing for her. And she's able to like expand her clientele. She's a Reiki master in our town. Cool. We live in a small town. Yeah. So for me, it just fed her better than it would feed me. So I wanted to retreat. I wanted to like really like go inward and look at myself of how I relate to the moon without serving others, because I put others in front of myself.
Oh, so you would develop more of your one-to-one connection with the moon.
Yeah. So if I'm always doing ceremony for other people on the new moon, which is what I was doing, I was realizing like, oh, like you're not getting that for you, because I was born under a new moon. So like for me, the new moon is really like my like rebirth time. So I was giving that to other people, which probably is why they were so successful, because they're like, oh, this is good. I'm just going to bathe in her energy. But so I found a solution without having to shut it down. And then so what I've been doing since then is just trying to get back into regular communing with the moon and doing ceremony on the new moon by myself, and really just like deepening my connection, deepening my relationship. And I've been making a lot of essence potions and stuff right now.
Cool.
So really seeing how I can use the medicine of the moon to serve people in a different way. So I'm kind of looking at myself now as like, how can I teach other people to commune with the moon, whether it's in group or by themselves, so they don't rely on me or other people to facilitate that for them. So, I've been making like tinctures and stuff that people can take during the month to like tap into that energy, but it's not, I send it off to them and then they get to experience it how they want to experience. And I've already had some like really cool feedback from those. I call them like my vibrational medicine. So just again, seeing the different ways to work with the energy of the moon. I think that's the other thing that I learned through all this is like, when I started doing moon circles, I was like, this is it. This is like the end all be all. These are so important. Like I can't imagine life without them, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, wait, like there's more than one way to serve people with the moon. So like really having to like go through those lessons and see how I can like truly show up. And I did something, and I wanted to touch on this because I did something really unique when I was first starting out. Because I understood that my words were spells, I was a really great manifester. And I taught classes on manifestation, and I could have people, I have like women getting pregnant. I've got them like getting their career. Like we were doing the thing, like we were getting the things that we wanted. I got my house that way, but then I realized I was getting all the things that I wanted, but I wasn't fulfilling myself because I was asking for things, not service or sharing my message. So I think we talked about it in collective one night is I changed my verbiage to like, what does the universe want to manifest through me? How can I be a channel? How can I be a vessel? So I switched that because I really I also like to play games with my intuition and my skills. And I was like, okay, I want to see what happens when like I just let the universe take the wheel. Like, am I like, and that's what I was thinking, or that's what I was realizing. Like, I was saying yes to everything because I thought it was spirit in my manifestation. And I'm like, maybe it was, but like, maybe it wasn't. And like, I wasn't giving the space to say no to things to see if the no was actually what the answer needed to be. So I started saying no to things, which was really hard. I feel like it disappointed a lot of people. But it was really powerful for me to just be like, okay, I'm not going to like make a plan of like, I want to have this many clients this month, or I want to do this month, or I want to accomplish this. I want to have a studio. I did all those things. I manifested everything that I could have wanted or needed in my career the first year, but it was like, it wasn't sustainable. And that was like the lesson. Like, I didn't have the energy for it because I was saying yes to everything. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity. I don't want to be not grateful, but it in the slowing down process and the switching my language to, again, what does the universe want to manifest through me? The universe knows that I need to rest, and it knows that I need replenished. So it is now kind of giving me, and that was kind of what I had decided when I did a meditation with the sunflower, is that I will only do things going forward that also nourish myself. So if I get invited to do something, I have to ask myself, or if I want to do something, because I like to do things, I like to do them for free. Everyone yells at me for it, but I like to. I call it liberation. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. I'm not motivated by money. But anyways, it was like, if it doesn't serve me first, I can't do it. But it's like, and since I kind of switched that frame and really understood that, I have been getting opportunities. You asked me to be on this podcast and to share it. And, I don't think that would have happened. And I've been getting such clear information in my vision quest of just like, here's the message, here it is. Like, it's been so clear, where before it was like so much, it was like, how do I choose? And now I'm like, oh, I know what to choose. And I don't feel bad not choosing some things over others, because it's crystal clear now. So I think that was a really cool switch in my practice, and yeah, like, you can manifest for like material things if we need them.
Totally.
I don't feel bad about that, but I just think if I'm using the moon to inspire service, I need to change it that way. Even though the things I was manifesting, I thought were like of service, but they were rooted in the patriarchal system of like performance and like competitive culture, even though like we all want to act like we're not competitive, but it is, we're participating in a system that doesn't allow us to not, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to not participate in that system. And I'm trying to, I remember like, I would get so caught up in advertising and how I'm articulating my message and doing all that. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really care. I'm just going to put the things out that I want to put out. And that's going to hopefully weed out 50% of the people that I don't want to work with, and like really get the people that need my message, need to hear what I'm saying, need my medicine. And that's okay if it's not for everybody. It is okay, because I think for me, it's the relating to, and it's the connecting. So if I'm working with you, I want to connect to you and relate to you. It's not just, let me do something for you and like, see you later. Like
Right.
I put you on my crystal grid. I put like you in my spells, like you are on my altar, but I want you to tell me like the things that you're noticing, because I just feel like the more people that we can inspire to have those experiences, it expands our consciousness, and it's medicine for me. It's not, it's a two-way street. So I think that's
you orbit each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, that was a really long answer again.
I love that though. I mean, thank you for that, because you've articulated so well my exact same manifestation journey. It sounds like, starting out with the things and always feeling this sense of like, it's not about the things, but it's nice to know how to manifest the things. and be specific in that way. But it's this, like you said, the patriarchal shift, from that shift into more of a balanced shift of the vessel, and of, instead of like having this agenda, it's like trusting and opening to that trust and noticing the relationship between you and the creative force of the universe. So I call it manifestation versus co-creation. And manifestation is even has man in the word. It's like so patriarchy. And co-creation is like the divine feminine and masculine co-creating through the vessel that is you and all the forces of the universe. It's like so different and so much easier and more fulfilling. So thank you for like just articulated that so well of that experience.
Yeah. Well, I like that verbiage of like the co-creation. Because when we talk about, like, I get sucked into partnerships because I love to co-create, man. I would like, it's so much fun. But I think it's like, yeah, when you can see like, oh, I can co-create with the universe, like you're not looking for the other, like the other is already there.
Right? You're not out there seeking to fill this need, or to, it's like, it's really is so different. Wow, we'll have to like just talk about that another time, because we could jam on that for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I am so nourished by this conversation. Thank you for sharing all of your, not all of it, the tip of the iceberg of your magic and medicine, bringing that, bringing your all to sharing it. And I'm very excited because we're going to do this moon magic. It's like an intro to moon magic workshop coming up. So do you want to tell people a little bit more about that? Just, you don't have to go too deep, but just give them a little sneak peek or something.
Absolutely. Well, if you kind of like dug on the idea of like being that vessel between the cosmos and the earth, I'm going to kind of go through and we're going to look at the zodiac signs, the archetypes, how they function and things like that. And we're going to kind of like really not like get into the nitty gritty. It's going to be a super big overview. I'm kind of giving you like a recipe card essentially. So we're going to look at like the players of the cosmos and how they function and how they show up for us. And then we're going to look at it, how it relates to the earth, and we're going to look at how it relates to ourselves. And then I'm going to take you on a super cool vision quest to meet maybe like a moon guide or one of the cosmic energies, and let you kind of experience that energy in your own body in your own way. And then we're going to go through and I'm going to teach you how to articulate and orchestrate your own moon ritual. So that way you can really feel empowered to do those things on yourself. You know, I feel like a lot of people wait to ask for permission, and they want someone else to take them through a ritual. And you probably do a ritual in your day already. You know, there's nothing so supernatural about it that like you can't do it with the things that you have at your house. So I'm going to help you kind of pick out a moon cycle that you want to work with in the month of August. So you can pick if you want to do a new moon thing, a full moon, you know, waning or waxing. And I'm going to help you kind of identify some elements that you might want to do and help you become that vessel and help you co-create your experience and your cycles. So I'm excited for it. It'll be cool. It'll be my hope when I was doing it is that it was something that you could come back to and just revisit and just put in new flavor every month. So then that way you've got a tool that is sustainable, you know, as long as you want to use it, trying to make a timeless tool. So then that way it wasn't just, I know a lot of moon things are like just specifically Virgo or whatever. And I wanted to give you something that was a little more thought provoking and kind of giving you the ingredients to the rituals that would be of your choosing and kind of let you feel empowered to create those for yourself.
Wow, I am so excited. I can't wait. That is awesome. And so folks, that'll be on the new moon in August 2020. If you can't make it, there's a recording. If you are listening to this way afterwards, you can still buy it as an instant access workshop and get all that goodness. And thank you. So what do you offer and where can people find you?
Yeah, so trying to come back from being off the grid and word of mouth only. So I have a website. It's sourcemother.love, and you can find me on Instagram. It's also at sourcemother. So I offer like like moon chart reading. So if you want to like if the workshop inspires you and you want like a more in-depth reading about your moon and how it relates, and setting up like personal rituals, kind of it's like an all-inclusive, I don't really do just astrology readings. We're going to do astrology work together. I do offer tarot readings. Those are like my quick little like check-ins. If you need help with like your guides, some information to help you navigate, do tarot readings. I also make selenite spirit wands to help with meditation. So those are like custom. They're on my website, so you can kind of see what I've done in the past. If you want one made for you, those are really special. And then I also do like the vibrational medicine, and either you can add those onto your reading if you want like extra support, or sometimes I'll just make them based on whatever is happening in the cosmos because I feel inspired by it. So I've got some of those to bottled up that will probably be available for sale by the time you're seeing this. So trying to get some of that like juiciness up and going. But yeah, I'm super casual, and I like to talk to the people that are visiting my website. So there's always a spot for you to like put in like your intentions or your thoughts and stuff for the month, and I'll pop it on my altar. So if you need a little extra support, it's there. And I'm gonna probably start writing a like a monthly or a weekly like love letter to people that are subscribing, to just like get some thoughts. I do a lot of dreaming, and I'm really obsessed with like dream work. So that's, if you want to hear like the off the beaten path stuff, that's where that's gonna come. You need consent. You need consent to hear those things.
I believe I'm signed up, but if I'm not, I'll be signing up. So yeah. That's awesome. Cool. So all of that, of course, folks, is linked in the show notes. So just look under your episode there or on our website. You can find it. And rock on. You can find the workshop as well in our shop at earthspeak.love. So check it out. Check it all out. And thank you so much, Maggie, for sharing your story too. I mean, just so inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks for having me and letting me share with the listeners.
Totally.
All the roads are windy.
Listen to over 200 free Earthspeak podcast episodes on your favorite podcast app, and visit earthspeak.love to learn about our collective community and workshops.